back again.
It's upside down. It's upside down.
It's not. We're back again.
It needs to be a button.
It's not upside down. It's fine. It's right.
Just do this.
You're not going to tell him we're back again?
We're back again.
You missed us? Yes, we did. Let's take it back. Yeah, that's better. When you're ready, darling. Get that socky on. Yes. Now, tonight, we are reading Come on. We're all waiting. Right, leave them alone, else we're going to be here all night, aren't we? Your socks are perfectly fine. She's got a bit of a thing with her socks. She can't stop leaving them. Right. Tonight, guys, we've got leave your socks alone, else I'm going to take them off. What do you want me to do? Leave them or take them off? Oh my God, you just wanted them on. God, dear me, what am I going to do with her? Well, she wants them on, and she wants them on, and she wants them on, and she wants them on. Look, they're all squirrely inside. That's why. Okay, sorry about that. Good. We're ready now? Yeah, we're ready now. Put your feet down. Thank you. The Tale of Benjamin Bunny. This is another Peter Rabbit story by Beatrix Potter. Who's that?
Squirrel.
Squirrel.
Yeah,
they've gone a bit dry, haven't they? Look. My fingers have gone a bit dry. Washing up, darling. That's a washing up. That's what it does. Say squirrel.
Squirrel.
Here we go again. Squirrel.
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 Take your hands out of the mouth, darling.
Squirrel.
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 Squirrel. No, you can't do it. Okay, never mind. One morning, a little rabbit sat on a bank. He pricked his ears and... Sorry about that. He pricked his ears and listened. He pricked his ears and listened to the trot of a pony. Do you know what noises ponies and horses make? Yes!
Stump, 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 stump.
Yes. A gig was coming along the road. I don't know what a gig is. A gig was coming along the road. It was driven by Mr. McGregor, and beside him sat Mrs. McGregor in her best bonnet. As soon as they had passed, little Benjamin Bunny slid down into the road and set off with a hop, skip and a jump to call upon his relations, who lived in the wood at the back of Mr. McGregor's garden. That wood was full of rabbit holes, and in the neatest, sandiest hole of all lived Benjamin's aunt and his cousins Flopsy,
Benjamin,
Mopsy,
Mopsy,
Cottontail,
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 Cotton,
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 Tail.
Tail.
Oh, and Peter. Old Mrs. Old Mrs. Rabbit was a widow. She earned her living by knitting rabbit wool mittens and muffets. Mufties. I once bought a pair at a bazaar. She also sold herbs and rosemary tea and rabbit tobacco, which is what we call lavender. Little Benjamin did not very much want to see his aunt. He came round the back of the fir tree and nearly tumbled upon the top of his cousin Peter.
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 Pete.
Peter.
Peter.
Yeah, look, there's an onion.
And there's another onion.
Do you like onions?
I
do.
No.
Peter was sitting by himself. He looked poorly, and he was dressed in a red cotton pocket handkerchief. "Peter," said little Benjamin in a whisper, "who has got your clothes?" Peter replied, "The scarecrow in Mr. McGregor's garden." And he described how he'd been chased about the garden and had dropped his shoes and coat. Little Benjamin sat down beside his cousin and assured him that Mr. McGregor had gone out in a gig.
What is that? Oh, I think it was
You nearly say like that, didn't you? He's gone out in a gig, and Mrs. McGregor also, and certainly for the day, because she was wearing her best bonnet. You're a tricker.
I want to sit right there. And then
I want you to sit here, they can see you.
Well,
They can see your pretty face.
well, you move it there, and then I can see us. Maybe Millie wants to come in.
No. Millie's downstairs, darling.
Well,
Not up here.
maybe not.
Come on. Peter.
I'll sit like here.
Peter said he hoped that it would rain. At this point, old Mrs. Rabbit's voice was heard inside the rabbit hole calling, "Cottontail, Cottontail, Cottontail, fetch some more chamomile." Peter said he thought that he might feel better if he went for a walk.
Oh no. It's my butt.
No, I don't want to. They went away hand in hand and got upon the
I still
flat top
can't see a story.
of the wall at the bottom of the wood. From here they looked down into Mr. McGregor's garden. Peter's coat and shoes were plainly to be seen upon the scarecrow, topped with an old tam-o'-shanter of Mr. McGregor.
Mr. McGregor.
Little Benjamin said it spoils people's clothes to squeeze under a gate. The proper way to get in is to climb down the pear tree. Peter fell down head first, but it was no consequence, as the bed below was newly raked and quite soft. It had been sown with lettuces. They left a great many odd little footmarks all over the bed, especially little Benjamin, who was wearing clogs. Clogs! God, I
Let
haven't
me
heard that.
see.
Clogs. I haven't heard that saying in ages.
Let me see. What is it? Oh, yeah.
Clogs are wooden shoes that you get in Holland. Say clogs.
Clogs.
Yes. Little Benjamin
Like
sat.
frogs.
Yes, but clogs. Little Benjamin.
Like frogs.
Yes, but clogs. Little Benjamin said that
What?
the first thing to be done was to get back Peter's clothes in order that they might be able to use the pocket handkerchief. They took them off to the Scarecrow. There had been some rain during the night, and there was water in the shoes, and the coat was somewhat shrunk. Benjamin tried on the tam o' shanter, but it was too big for him. So the tam o' shanter is a hat. Who's sneaking about? Is that you?
No, isn't me.
Is that you?
No.
Then he suggested that they should fill the pocket handkerchief with onions as a little present for his aunt. Peter did not seem to be enjoying himself. He kept hearing noises.
It's me.
You're hurting me. Benjamin, on the contrary, was perfectly at home, and he ate a lettuce leaf. He said that he was in the habit of coming to the garden with his father to get lettuces for their Sunday dinner. Can you stop playing, please?
Okay.
Come back up here as I'm turning it off.
You turn it
Turning
off.
it off in a minute. Take your legs straight.
Oh.
Thank you. I'll turn you off. The name of little Benjamin's papa was old Mr. Benjamin Bunny. The lettuces certainly were very fine. Peter did not eat anything. He said he should like to go home. Presently, he dropped half the onions. They got all amongst flower pots and frames and tubs. Peter heard noises worse than ever. His eyes were as big as lollipops. He was a step or two in front of his cousin when he suddenly stopped. Shush, they're reading, I'm listening. This is what those little rabbits saw around the corner. Little Benjamin took one look, and then in half a minute, less than no time, he hid himself and Peter and the onions underneath a large basket. What do you think he's seen?
A cat.
A cat lying on the path. The cat got up and stretched himself and came and sniffed the basket. Perhaps she liked the smell of onions. Anyway, she sat down upon the top. She sat there for 5 hours.
These. Or these.
5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I cannot draw you a picture of Peter and Benjamin underneath the basket because it was quite dark, and because the smell of onions was fearful, it made Peter Rabbit and little Benjamin cry. The sun got round behind the wood, and it was quite late in the afternoon, but still the cat sat upon the basket. At length there was a pitter-patter, and some bits of mortar fell from the wall above. The cat looked up and saw old Mr. Benjamin Bunny prancing along the top of the wall of the upper terrace. He was smoking a pipe of rabbit tobacco and had a little switch in his hand. He was looking for his son. Old Mr. Bunny had no opinion whatever of cats. He took a tremendous jump off the top of the wall onto the top of the cat and chuffed it off the basket and kicked it into the greenhouse, Scratching off a handful of fur, the cat was too much surprised to scratch back. When old Mr. Bunny had driven the cat into the greenhouse, he locked the door. Then he came back to the basket and took out his son Benjamin by the ears and whipped him with a little switch. Oh, it's not very nice, is
Am I
it?
just going to sleep?
You want to go to sleep? Yeah.
You keep reading the story.
I will keep reading the story
Okay.
to the kids. Then he took out his nephew, Peter. Then he took out the handkerchief of onions and marched out of the garden. When Mr. McGregor returned about half an hour later, he observed several things which perplexed him, which means confused him. It looked as though some person had been walking all over the garden in a pair of clogs.
Daddy, I don't like it.
Okay, I'll finish it quickly, yeah? Only the footmarks were too ridiculously little. Also, he could not understand how the cat could have managed to shut himself up inside the greenhouse, locking the door outside from the outside. When Peter got home, his mother forgave him because she was so glad to see him. He found the shoes and the coat. Cottontail and Peter folded up the pocket handkerchief, and old Mrs. Rabbit strung up the onions and hung them out from the kitchen ceiling with the herbs, with the rabbit tobacco. That's it. Sorry, done it. Told you, didn't I?
Yeah.
The Tale of
Can I
Benjamin
have a
Bunny.
pillow?
You want a pillow?
Bye.
Of course you can. You want to go now?
Bye.
Bye.